announce that we're almost at 50% as a nation in terms of counting everyone that lives here in the country. So that's a big milestone. And I know at the local level, we definitely, Texas is a very populous state. So we definitely have a lot of work to do. But yet I think we need to stop for a minute and just celebrate all of our accomplishments. Collectively, you guys have done a lot of work. You should be very proud of yourselves. I sent an email and I said, please raise your hands. Let's do one of these because, it really is a lot of time. It's a lot of energy, but it shows how much passion and how much you care for the communities that you serve. So thank you for that. Texas, as of today, we're at 45.1%. That is roughly meaning that 5.5 million households at the state level have been counted. So we're a little behind in terms of the national average, but that is perfectly okay. At the local level, Harris County, we're closely mirroring what Texas is doing. So that's a very good sign, being that we account for about 25%, a little under 25% of the Texas population. So that's really well. And I'm talking in terms of the 25%, almost 25%, I'm talking about the Houston metro area, which includes other surrounding counties. But I had been looking at trends. And so I want to just give you all a big shout out. You guys did a lot of work during Census Week. So I just want to let you know that all those efforts were very successful in moving those rates up. I'm going to go back to my slides. And I want to say that in some of the counties, the neighboring counties, there were jumps for just that 1 week. Actually, I was looking at a 14-day period before and after Census Week. And so for some of the counties in the area, typically we saw jumps from anywhere from almost 15% to 20%. So that is a big undertaking and a big accomplishment that you all should just kind of pause for a minute, savor it in, and say, wow, we really did do a lot in a 14-day period. So kudos to you all. I'm going to move on and transition into the next big topic for the census, which is the planned adjustments. You probably saw the press release that mentioned a new possible day of October 31st. So there is talk about extending the time past the current deadline, which is August 14th. And that is pending congressional approval. So the press release is a proposed plan to extend the census deadline. We have to submit that proposal. We have submitted that proposal to Congress. However, Congress, I think, has they have a recess, and so they are back to work. I want to say sometime around May 4th. That's what we've seen. So it is possible that they may include the census in one of the more recent legislation that goes by, that passes, because with us, it means that not only are we extending the time to not abide by the law. The law mandates that we provide the census counts at the end of this year to the office of the president. And then those numbers are shared with the states on April 1st, 2021. Because we're extending the time frame, it will not allow the Census Bureau to crunch the numbers and get them into a format where it is presentable and deliverable to the president at the end of this year. So that needs to take congressional approval. It also, many of our activities didn't, we as a bureau did not foresee that we were going to go past, the July 31st. We know that was extended to August 14th. And so that means additional costs. So we also need to update the budget. So there's a few things that have to take in place, but you saw the breakdown. You see it here. I've only included the things that have a date attached to them. To be determined are still the service-based enumeration that is part of our group quarters operation. And that's really going into the soup kitchens and facilities that serve people, that are experiencing homelessness. There's also the MQAs. We are planning on resuming MQAs as soon as the environment is available for us to work safely. So all of these things that you see here listed are really things that are dependent upon our environment. These are outside activities that need to take place, and so that is the reason why we don't have a a specified time frame for those. So I'm going to stop here because I just, covered two big topics. If anybody has any questions.
Yeah, and you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask, or we also have the chat box where you can ask a question. So, Anna, is there an idea of when the enumeration will start, the knocking on doors? And I heard that even when the enumeration starts, they'll just be leaving the questionnaire outside the door and not actually talking to anyone. So maybe you can clarify a little bit about that.
Right. So you see the different phases here. So we still have self-response. The proposed date is to stop on October 31st. That would be the last day someone can participate in the census. You see here some group quarters. And so the second block talks a little bit about the colleges and universities that had, dormitories and housing on site. Then you see the field offices. We're being told to prepare, to head out, starting on or about 6th first. So one of the things that Kathy asked early on before we started the call is that I'm checking in with my partners to see whether or not they will be able to host us for mobile questionnaire assistance sites. We are planning on resuming those. So we are checking in. We're reaching out to our partners to say, would you like for one of us to come out on a specific day, specific hours, so that we're available to the community? So that's one thing that you should expect from census representatives. In terms of update leave is a process where we update the address. So we have to physically drive there, and we have to leave a paper copy of the questionnaire. These are traditionally areas that do not receive mail. So in Harris County, typically everybody receives the mail. So what we're going to be looking at is the NRFU, non-response follow-up. That is when you should expect to see the census takers in the community. And so right now there is talk to just, the same way that we were trying to do enumeration is to go and knock on those doors. We could be leaving a door hanger if we don't find the person there. And we do try to visit them a few times. We will talk to the neighbors. We will talk to different people that will allow us to know when we can find someone at their home so that we can enumerate them there. Then we talk about in-person group quarters. Those are more of the facilities, college dormitories, that sort, that did not opt to do an electronic submission of who lives on the campus. So that's going back to the colleges and visiting them on a personal basis. And then the transitory count talks a little bit more about the mobile where people pay to live. So if you think about it that way, you're talking about the RV camps, the other, facilities where people have to pay to live there. Sometimes people live in motels. Sometimes people live in hotels for extended periods of time. So transitory means that people can move out, but they do have to pay to live there. I hope that answers the question and provides a little bit more in depth as to what these phases mean.
Yeah, thank you. And everyone, please do.
This is Jesse. This is Jesse Linus. May I speak?
Yes, please, Jesse.
Thank you. About a month ago, I was told that hiring people for the NRFU and further down the line was not a priority anymore, and that they weren't looking for people to hire. Is that still true, or has it changed?
Thank you for the question. That is a very good question. Right now, we were told to go ahead and continue pushing recruitment. With this situation, we don't know. All of our, actually most of our offices locally for the metro area were fully got to their goals for full recruitment. However, because of the situation, there may be individuals who may no longer feel safe in going out and working in the community. So we were told to go ahead and continue issuing or pushing, encouraging people to go online and submit their application if they would like to work for the census down the road. Now, we say August 11th for the non-response follow-up. That is right now proposed pending this environment is safe for us to work out. So there's still some leeway for changes if those need to be made. But right now, you're correct in saying that is not taking place. Our field operations have been halted. And so we will be resuming calling people back, extending job offers, doing all those hiring processes, back on June the 1st. So that is correct. We are on pause right now. It doesn't mean that that's not a priority. It just means that our marching orders right now is to hold off until we are able to move along, because if we hire them, we can't train them. Right, so it's still gonna have this process, and they can't go and get their fingerprints. They can't go and do all these things. So the reason why there's a gap between June 1st and August 11th is because we're gonna go back to the hiring, go back to the background checks, go back to the onboarding and training before they head out to the field.
Okay, and I think someone had asked if we're going to be provided all these documents, and yes, they'll be shared on Basecamp with everyone. Are there any other questions?
I'm going to mention one more thing that came up yesterday as we begin to transition or utilize other strategies to reach those areas that are not responding enough to the census. We were advised yesterday that our partners can start doing phone banking where they can collect people's information. I'm still waiting on some official guidance. We've asked for it. There is some training materials that our field employees have received. One of the ways that we're alleviating the wait time on the call centers, those language lines that we provided for the public to fill out their census, is that those people that have not been able to talk live with someone and they've left a message for someone to call them back, those callbacks are coming back to our local level by area, by language need. So just to give you an idea, 2 days ago, our region, and I can't narrow it down to the local area because those numbers weren't available to me yesterday, but at the regional level, meaning 12 states, there were a total of over 600 phone calls. And those were divvied up based on geography and also language needs. So those are being worked. Yesterday, there were only 9 calls for the entire 12-state region. So that means that we're trying really hard to narrow down and decrease the wait time for people to get an answer on the phone. Now, in terms of the phone banking, we locally were also told that we can support staff. So if you have a phone bank that you want to incorporate this, there are 3 minimum requirements. And I'm sorry, I don't have anything written in stone at this time. We're waiting for that to come through the normal channels. You need to identify yourself as a non-sworn census employee. And more than likely, they know who you are because you're part of the community, right? The second thing is you have to tell them that you have to ask the questions verbatim. So if they do say, yes, I would appreciate you taking my information, you go onto the website, you key in the information, you read the question verbatim. Don't sway anyone to answer one way or another. It has to come to them because the census is all about self-identification. I will say that there are 2 questions that may be problematic for those serving the Hispanic community. That is the Hispanic origin and the race question, which causes some confusion. So just remember that the Hispanic origin just asked you where from the Hispanic and Latino and Spanish groups are you from, or what is your heritage? So you can have multiple Hispanic heritage. I can tell you my son, I'm of Mexican descent. My husband is from South, his family's from South America. So for my son, I checked off 2 in terms of Hispanic. And then we get to the race question. And then if you want to say you are maybe a Hispanic who may be of European descent, you look very, European, then maybe you say white and you type in where is your heritage from. if you don't know or you have multiple, I can tell you I myself have to fill out too because I don't identify with just white. So my heritage is from Mexico. So of course, there is some native in me. I just don't know what it is, but I do have to put twice, check off two categories. So you can do that. But please be sure that it comes from the respondent when you have these things. The last thing that we would recommend is that you either read them, their confirmation code that they have submitted their answer to the census, or take a screenshot and text it back to them so they have a record that they have participated in the census. So those are really some of the basic ground rules in order if you decide to do phone banking that you need to navigate with. Any questions on what I've just said?
Now, this is Anna Magnot from Houston in Action. Thank you so much for all of this information. I wonder if there are guidelines that the Census Bureau is coming out with that are kind of formalizing this new process that we or the organizations can use in ensuring that they're collecting these responses for the purpose of the completion of the form.
So we have asked for that. As I mentioned, the customer response representatives, the CRRs that are calling back locally, they have been trained on how to do fill out information via phone for respondents. So we've asked for that training to be available to us. We may have to tweak it a little bit to make it for partners, since we don't have to say we're not census sworn employees. We are. So there's little things here and there that I'm anticipating will have to change, but I have not received it as of today. That was the phone call that we were on yesterday at a regional level. So we've asked for those materials, and as soon as I get them, I'll forward them so that you're able to see them. But I'll probably have to tweak a little before it gets out.
Hi, this is Selma Harmon. Can everyone hear me? I have a quick question for Anna. You had spoken about follow-up for students who lived in apartments, the college or university apartments and dormitories. Now, I know I'm a professor at a undergrad. I mean, at a school, university, and all of our students were sent home. So there are no students who are in any of our apartments, and there's no students who are living in our dormitory. So how will follow-up happen with those individuals because of the situation?
Okay, so the universities had different ways of submitting information. You'll see their group quarters electronic submission in paper. So that's actually going on now. So from April the 2nd through June the 5th, the university has an option to submit the information for those individuals living at the college dormitories. If they don't want to do the electronic or paper submission, then we have to go to the dates of July the 1st to September the 3rd in purple that you see on the screen. And that is when the in-person count of people living in group quarters, not just college dormitories, but other places like shelters, women's shelters and other facilities would take place. So there is an option for us to follow up in person.
But what about those students who are out of state and have gone back to another state or back to their parents' home or what have you? How do you track them?
So what we do is we encourage our partners to help us get the word out about this special population. We've been talking about this population just because they were sent home, wherever that may be. But if they're going full-time to college, they may call some other place home for the majority of the year. So we want those individuals to get counted where they live and sleep the majority of the year, or where they would have been living on April 1st had this COVID-19 situation hadn't been wasn't taking place. So we need you, I know that some of my peers are working with colleges and universities to do, events, virtual events to teach people or to talk to people about, go ahead, go online. You can do yourself if you have your own address, if you had your own apartment. Go online and type in the apartment where you would have been living on April 1st.
Okay, thank you.
And then just one last question. If there's someone in your house that is following the shelter in place orders and they actually lived somewhere else, where would they be counted? They wouldn't be here but for those stay-at-home orders.
The same thing applies. So we have to count people where they live and sleep the majority of the year. Where would their permanent residence be had they not been, had we not had COVID-19 situation? So they too need to be counted in their permanent home, wherever that may be.
Okay, great. So I think we're going to be mindful of time. Just want to make sure we don't have any more questions. Nope. Okay, so thank you, Anna, so much for joining us. It's always very helpful to have you with us. So we are going to move on to Chris, and he's going to be sharing with you all some of the efforts we did at Census Week. But before we do that, I wanted to just give a shout out to, I know Juliet is here, Juliet Stipetche. She had a wonderful hat on, and I can't see her anymore, but she's here from the mayor's office. She's also our education co-lead. And we have folks here from Harris County Judge's office, both precinct 1 and 2. So thank you so much for joining here with us. And I know we have people from the Houston Public Library team, so we appreciate it. So let's move on to Chris. And he's going to share with you kind of some of the wonderful things that all of y'all did during Census Week. So take it away, Chris.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Nabila. Slide should be here in the deck. Is the next slide available? There we go. So if you haven't already, I encourage you to take a look at censusweek.org, censusweek.com. I'll just drop it into the chat here. Because it looks really amazing, really wonderful. It's almost up to date as of this morning with basically all of the social media activity that's been taking place with anyone using hashtag H-Town Counts, Sí al Censo, or Yes to the Census. And yeah, it's really, really amazing to take a look at everyone's activity online and how folks are sharing the message and participating in the campaign. Just if we can move to the next slide. So Census Week, as folks know, started out on March the 28th. Census Sunday was one of the first big events that we saw happening online. I don't know if we have time or the ability to click the image to watch the video. It's about 2 minutes long, but it was a collaboration between the video was a collaboration, but the work of reaching, I don't know if the audio will work for us or not. I think you'll have to turn your audio on, Anna. But basically, Polichick, one of our partners, kicked off Census Week by reaching out to 5 different first ladies from some of the Black church communities here in the Houston region, and was able to get them to partner and engage their church as well as other churches within the Black faith community to participate in Census Sunday, where folks called and texted people within their communities to remind them about the census. If we can play a little bit, maybe. And I think if you unmute, unmute your line, it should come through the speakers.
Sorry, y'all.
There we go. No problem.
Of Harris County and Houston's faith community, we value each and every person.
We seek to be an inclusive home where we all have a seat at the table
and where life is abundant and our families are strengthened.
That's why we're taking time today to talk as a community about the 2020 census.
Our communities have grown and have not been fully counted in the past.
What most people don't know is that the census is more than just a count.
That means that if you don't count everyone, we'll leave valuable resources and services on the table.
$10,000 over 10 years for every person that's not counted.
Cool, thank you, Anna. Oh, we won't sit through the whole video, but I'll of course share. We can share the link so that folks can see the full video. It's on our YouTube page. And if you are able to show the next slide. So just, Polichik reported back to us that, the previous one to this. There were at least 30 churches that aired the video in their streaming services. At that point, many churches, many churches had moved to streaming services. And these are churches anywhere between 120,000 and 120,000 attendees. So some incredible reach and really an amazing effort from Polichik. I just wanted to highlight the work there. But of course, throughout the week we had, yes.
I have a real quick question. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you have the names of the 30 churches? Because I would not want to duplicate the churches if possible, if we decide to go that route.
Yeah, I don't personally, but I can certainly connect you with Christina Sanders at Polichik, and y'all can coordinate however you like. I'm happy to help.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing. And Thelma, I'll follow up with you offline because I'm not sure if I have your contact info.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you, Julio. Yeah, it's really beautiful to see everyone's work. And then so the next slide. Of course, throughout Census Week, there were a number of online activities. We've been capturing as many as we possibly can on censusweek.org. We'll move all that stuff over to the Houston in Action website and anywhere else that makes sense to have it. Just for Census Week, you can see that the hashtags yes to the census and H-Town counts were widely used across multiple posts, over 600 posts within the week. More than 400 users and more than 5,000 engagements with a cumulative reach of over 3 million and a cumulative number of impressions, meaning someone saw the content but may not have stopped to read it, of 6 million. And that's the number of times, not necessarily the number of people. But yeah, across all of our network, as far as what we've tracked, during Census Week, there were more than 22 streaming video events. That meant that over 36,000 views had happened, and those views continue to happen on people's respective social media channels. That was about 31,000 impressions, and just with the videos alone, about 3,300 engagements. Of course, there was also great media coverage during the week. For those who may not have known, there was a headline in the week prior to Census Week that really wasn't painting the picture that we wanted to paint of the effects that COVID was having on our census work. And so we were really happy to see a number of different articles come out featuring some of the canvassers from the Harris County effort, including Miss B, who's a wonderful canvasser and personality. Of course, this was canvassing before we were all in lockdown. And then also Nabila talked to Community Impact, and Francis talked to the Houston Chronicle editorial board. And then I just had a quote here from some of our partners in Fort Bend. You're welcome to read it, and I'm sure this deck will be available afterwards. But can go to the next slide. And then also support. So if you're not already, please, I encourage you to join our email newsletter. It is at houstoninaction.org. You can click the Stay Connected button in the upper right-hand corner and answer a few questions, and you'll be added to our list, and you'll be one of the 500 plus recipients of our newsletter. On average within the nonprofit sectors, I think the open rate's about 25%. You can see that the attention to our regular information was substantially higher than the average, and so we're really proud to be able to support our members and our partners and the network as much as we can with timely information as we receive it. And and of course, always open to feedback. So if you do receive that newsletter and you think there's something we could be doing better, please, I encourage you to just hit reply, and that message will make its way back.
Great. Thank you, Chris. I had the honor of joining or representing Houston in Action at a press conference at one of the murals that was publicizing the census with Mayor Turner and County Judge Lena Hidalgo. And it was very nice. And we were all practicing social distancing.
Thank you for that reminder, Nabila. I'll just say too that's on censusweek.com. If you scroll to the bottom, you can see the Facebook Live featuring Nabila there too.
You. So I'm really happy because we're right on time. We ended right at 2:35, and we never do that. So this is wonderful. So now we're going to hear from some of our community organizations that have been doing really, really fantastic work. Kind of this, after COVID-19 lockdown got into place. And so we'll be hearing from Echoes, Chat, and Crescent. And I think we have the slide deck loaded so that we'll hear from Kathy Moore and Marcella Para from Echoes, which is the Epiphany Community Health Outreach Services. So Kathy, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Kathy Moore. I am with Epiphany Community Health Outreach Services. I promise there will not be a test to try to remember our whole name. Most people call us Echoes because it's so much easier to remember, and our clients know us by that name. They know our real name. We were started in 1999 as a ministry of the Episcopal Diocese, and we continue to work outside the church. But we do not proselytize. People of all faiths walk in our door and are absolutely welcome. So we have a lot of services. Can we move to the next slide? Thanks so much. Wasn't there another one? Well, I'll just tell you. Our mission is to connect people in need with the health, social, and educational resources to improve their lives. So I'm going to go over all of our, briefly go over, so I don't make you nervous, Anna, that we're going to go too long. We have a food security program, which is a food pantry, food fairs, and more often than not, we're handing out food vouchers or grocery cards. We do health screenings. We have dental vans, vision vans. Texas Children's comes once a month, often more than once a month, for their go-to place when they get a cancellation. And so when Texas Children show up, we see 83 families in a day. There's a lot of crying going on because there's a lot of immunizations. And we do our core service, which is how we started, is a benefits application assistance program, which frankly is Medicaid, CHIP, food stamps, Gold Card. And if any of you are familiar with the Harris Health Financial Assistance Program, it used to be called the Gold Card. And these are opportunities for our clients to access health care in an affordable manner because our clients really don't have access to the health insurance maybe you or I do. We have financial assistance programs. We've got Hurricane Harvey relief assistance we're still doing, which is rental assistance and utility, and of course the disaster assistance. And now, as a result of COVID, we have more clients than we've ever seen in need of financial assistance, and our phone rings off the hook. I think Marcy told me one day she herself took over 100 phone calls. Is that right, Marcy? You got to unmute.
So we're getting hundreds and hundreds of calls every day. I had to mute my phone.
Right. So we currently have, and I'm going to say the word currently have, ESL and computer literacy classes. We're going through some strategic planning. The board is determining what our core services are and how we want to proceed and invest our resources going forward to best serve the community. I can tell you, hands down, the benefits application assistance will remain our core program. We just have to decide where we go in the future with the others. And board is making those decisions. So next slide, please. Thank you. I think there's another one. Who we serve? No? Are we missing a slide? Okay, well, I'm just going to tell you then who we serve. We serve in the southwest side of town, but people come to us from 5 counties. We are not zip code restricted like many of the assistance ministries in town. The majority of our families, excuse my dog, Luke, he's a loud boy. Most of our families are mixed status or undocumented families. They come to us because we're on a church property and they feel safe. All of our families are poverty-stricken, vulnerable families. And last year we did 70,000, over 70,000. Just a minute, I'm gonna let that dog out. I'm so sorry. This is so embarrassing.
So I'm going to take over a little bit. So we're serving over 70,000 service units, and that's, is that duplicated numbers or unduplicated numbers?
Those are duplicated numbers because many, as you know, Marcy, many of our families come in, let's say for food stamps, and they sign up for that, but we also run them through the food pantry as well. So they get maybe a grocery card as well as food pantry. So for each of the services they receive that day, we call it a service unit. Good point. So next slide, please. And we've done that. Next slide. So we've been working on the census since the beginning of the year. And Marcy's going to take over and talk a little bit about how we work with our families to educate them about the census.
So before COVID, of course, every morning we had a morning meeting where we would talk about the process. Kathy will talk to our clients, our families about the process, what's going to happen during the day. And we incorporated a census talk to every morning where we would talk about the importance of being counted. Most of our families in the mornings, like Kathy mentioned, are mixed status or undocumented. So we want to build trust. We are a trusted organization, but when we have new clients, we want to make them feel comfortable. So that's why it's important to talk to them in our morning meetings and incorporating the census talk in it. And we try to empower them, especially undocumented families, undercounted families, saying, you know what, it's not only about the funding for social programs are so needed, but it's also very much about representation. We're undercounted, therefore underrepresented. We need to be represented. We need this kind of empowerment in our communities. So that's one of the conversations we would have during the morning. We opened up for questions. We would tell them about other organizations. We would tell them about other resources. And once they are registered and go to a navigator, the navigators will talk to them one-on-one. And because of the same, go ahead.
Next slide.
So because of the amount of mixed status families that we receive, sometimes they feel a lot more comfortable talking one-on-one instead of in the group meeting saying, you know, I'm undocumented. How is this going to affect me? So that's why it was very important for us to have a one-on-one conversation with navigators and families so that they can have these questions answered at their desk without feeling exposed.
Marcy, if we could maybe just finish up in just like a minute or so. And
No problem. We also had our census lab, but it was shut down in a week. I think when we open it up in June, we are going to have our own enumerator from the census, but it was getting a lot of excitement. So that was very sad that we have to shut it down, but a lot of people were getting very excited. So now, where we are now. So Kathy, take it away.
Okay. So we're still doing our food pantry, but we're doing it in a drive-through manner. And we are giving people materials and census education materials with their food as it gets out. We're still doing the financial assistance program, and we're doing follow-up calls with clients. With our follow-up calls from our benefits application assistance program, we are incorporating census conversations from the navigator to the client when we reach them. You might call it a phone bank. We can still consider it our follow-up calls. We're also going to do, and we just kind of came up with this recently, we're doing a check-in with all of our volunteers, all 200 and some odd of them. And we're going to do some calls with them And so we thought we would also incorporate the census conversation in that as well. So that's where we are now. We're doing it as we can. We've been distributing people loved the bags. Anna gave us some bags, and we were able to get those out. Does anyone have questions for us?
What we'll do is we'll put the questions in the chat box, and what we're going there's some lines coming on our presentation, so we're just going to switch over to a different one, so it'll be hopefully more cleaner. But I'll take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Aisha Siddiqui, and I think Chow Lee is also here from CHAT, the Culture of Health Advancing Together. And they work with refugee communities, and they're going to be sharing what they're doing right now in this strange kind of time where they have to use social media more than ever below. So we're going to reload it. Yeah, it's loaded up. And Dr. Siddiqui, I'll let you take it from here. Is Dr. Siddiqui?
Can you hear me, Nabila?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thanks everyone. It's a very nice presentation. So today we will tell you about CHAT, which stands for Culture of Health Advancing Together. And again, this is like echoes. CHAT is more familiar name. Everybody knows us as CHAT, and we are in the Gulfton area. We are serving the immigrant and refugee communities, and our mission is to improve the health and well-being of immigrants and refugees. You can go on to the next slide because this slide is just have the name. So this organization was founded in 2015, and the reason was that we wanted to support the newcomers. And we have many programs, but one of our most important programs is CHAT Academy, where we help the immigrant and refugee kids with their education, with their homework, and all those programs. And we also have ESL classes for women. We have social emotional learning program for children in schools. And we did the Gulfton Story Trail, which is a project where we created these murals in the community, because I believe that arts is one of the most effective medium to improve a community. And obviously we are working with Census and several other agencies. Yeah, next slide, please. So for our Census Outreach, we partner with the Houston in Action, and we did many events. For example, like a movie night, we had the giveaways and we did canvassing, but and it was going very well until COVID-19. So pre-COVID-19, we were doing events every month and sometimes more than a month. Chow, please chime in if you have anything to add in there. Chow is our office manager.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie. So I'm going to share a little bit about the shifting from the COVID-19. So we were doing a great job on the census events, but due to the COVID-19, we're shifting everything online. So for our CHAT Academy, we are providing tutoring program for children, but everything is done online now. We paired tutors with a couple of students and help them with the homework. And besides that, we also host Facebook Lives. We are doing workshops online on Facebook, and we are also delivering messaging about hand washing and census related on Facebook Live. And we also distributed materials about hand washing and social distance flyers to the community. And for census, we have been integrating census messaging into our digital story time on our Facebook Live. And we also painted census murals in two locations. One is within the Ask for Crescent Oaks apartment, and the others is in Simply grocery stores. And through phone banking, we have reached over 1,200 people as of April 4th.
So just to give you a little bit background of our work, we are in the Gulfton area, and we are in an apartment complex that's Ashford Crescent Oak. We have rented two 3-bedroom apartments. So our office is in there. We have a small fitness room, a small clinic, and a computer lab. And on the second apartment is all Chat Academy, where children come for homework from 5 to 7 p.m. every day. So this is this area of Gulfton, which is predominantly immigrants and refugees. If you are not from that part of Houston, or if you don't know, we speak about 60 to 70 languages here, and there are people from, I believe, 80 countries. So it's a very, very diverse area, and we are just sitting in the middle of that in an apartment complex. So we are very much part of that community. So it is very organic for us to reach out to that community because we are already there. To take the census message there was something that was not like a foreign idea for us.
Thank you, Dr. Siddiqui. I think we're going to move on now to Elmer Romero from Crescent, and he's going to share with us some of the things that their wonderful organization is doing.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Next slide, please. Crescent is serve the immigrant community. Stand for Central American Resources. We are located in the Southwest area also. It's a 40 years organization working in that area, and basically we serve the immigrant and refugee community in general, mainly Central American from the Northern Triangle, which is El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, and the Afro-descendant community from Latin America and communities from Mexico. Our work prioritizes those who are below the poverty line and extreme poverty, people with low educational levels, most vulnerable communities, such as the LGBTIQ and Central Americans and Caribbean beneficiary of the TPS, which stand for Temporary Protected Status, DACA and DED. Those programs are under cancellation right now. Small entrepreneurs and owners of business that work in the transport industry and the seniors community in process of retirement, those communities are native to live in the situation of economic and social vulnerability. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk about what we have been doing using this platform, WhatsApp's best practices and phone banking scripts. Next slide, please. First of all, this is what we did before COVID-19. So, we were doing Friday educational work in our office in the Southwest every Friday. And then we went to different areas, neighborhoods, and business in the community. We talked to the leaders. We also had this carnival and this discotheque, Amazonia discotheque. And we were also doing a lot of activities in the neighborhood, selling food and not selling food, basically doing gastronomic festivals in the community. So that was before COVID-19, and then we had to move to the next approach. Next slide, please. Basically, our goal for this, is to share the message, to share the best practice about using WhatsApp. So next, please. Basically, the first insight that I would like to share, and probably that is WhatsApp is the #1 application most used by the Latinx community. The second one probably is Facebook, but WhatsApp is the #1. And to reach neighborhood and community, we had to create a specific WhatsApp group. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So next slide. Basically, you need, for example, we had the TPS group, the Crescent group, SALEX group, which is a group through the Salvadorian Embassy, the National TPS Alliance, they have a group, the grassroots communities, and also churches and pastors, they also create their own groups. So this is the way that you use WhatsApp. And how is a group created? Basically a topic of interest that unites them as a community, establish a close relationship with the leadership of the group, and connect the team of Census 2020 with the current crisis of COVID-19. and through direct contact via telephone call and ask the person for permission if they want to be part of that group. And as you know, people in a group belong to other group, and that's how this works. They also connect you with other group of interests. Next, please. You have to have rules and protocols about how to establish this group. This is just one example. Next, please. The most important, the creative message. It has to be very visual, short, and concrete text, and with some motivation and hopeful. We use these cartoons, and that's the message that we are using right now with the short message. You can see that the next slides, we have more examples. So basically, we use the popular education approach, which is creating codes. We create, visual code, auditory codes, audiovisuals, and art expression, and we deliver those messages using WhatsApp. Next, please. So we have been working with these professional cartoonists, and we create these concepts, and we create this message in Spanish, and we also are going to translate some of them, and we deliver those cartoons through WhatsApp, and also we posted in our Facebook pages, and it's, to be honest, people love it. They really appreciate it because the message is direct and they connect with them. Next, please. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about phone banking. Basically, Crescent has a tradition to call people for 40 years, so they are familiar with these practices. We have currently a database, but we also are creating a new database through day-to-day community work through social networks. And this is number 3 is people really have a great need to speak to someone. Human and not to a machines. The environment right now is very appropriate and conducive to talking to people. So I will highly recommend to use phone banking at this moment because people are in very need to talk to someone. Next, please. The script basically, you have to have a calling protocols. Talk to the appropriate person at the right time. We are calling from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Introduction and presentation for the organizations. Keep the conversation simple and concrete. Talk them for their thank them for their time and be very kind on the phone. And we leave a message. If the person does not answers, they usually call us back. And the other thing, do not mention the census at the beginning. Talk about the coronavirus as an entry point, and then truth in the conversation. But you have to have a list of resources and references because they're going to ask you.
Yeah, thank you, Elmer. I think we're about finished with our time, and I want to be cognizant of everyone else's time as they join us. So we'll share these slides, and I think some people were even asking if they could use some of your wonderful cartoons. But we do want to let y'all know that we are have another meeting scheduled on July 16th. Now that was originally supposed to be our last complete count meeting, but in light of the census timeline being extended to October 31st, and I don't think we're going to answer this in the 2 minutes remaining, but we just want to put this out, is that would you like to continue with these complete count committee meetings all the way to October? Maybe we can make them not every month or every month and a half as we usually have, but just start thinking about that. But we do have another meeting on July 16th, but do keep in mind that the census timeline has been extended to October 31st. And we want to thank everyone for their collective work. Elmer, please do let everyone know if they can share your comic graphics, because I think they were a big hit. And also, there are so many ways that we can all get involved. Visit harrishoustoncounts.com. If you're in need of any collateral, yard signs, flyers, postcards, or if you need any ideas or training, Houston in Action is there. You can reach out to Anna McNaught at Houston in Action at anna@houstoninaction.org. And please continue to stay healthy, stay safe with your families. We will see you on July 16th. So thank you, everyone. And then also, I think people are leaving, and I apologize, but if people want to take turn in hosting the meetings as we get past the July 16th date, please let us know. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.